I'm gonna be high as a fucking man.
And now, the stationary astronaut.
What? Yeah? From the...
We had to graduate. We're good to go. We had to graduate from the old logo into the new one.
Into the new logo?
Yeah.
Well, I like them both. I mean, the old one has more detail, but the new one has still has all the elements of being able to be in your body, but then be in space at the same time.
It's what we're going for. It was just so hard to print with the old logo that we have on the microphones here.
Okay.
So much detail.
Yeah.
So it was very tough. Very tough.
Yeah, it's almost like a work of art, the old
Yeah.
one. Who did the logos?
This girl named Nicole did the old one, and I had been searching for months trying to find an artist who could put my vision onto paper. And sure enough, I came across her, Nicole Geneva Walskog, and she hooked me up. It wasn't cheap, but she hooked me up, and she only took a couple weeks to get it done, which was surprising because I had literally been searching for like 2.5 years just trying to find an artist who could put it together. And because the legs were the tough part, getting astronaut legs to bend into the lotus position, it was very tough.
For sure. It's hard for anybody to get their legs to bend like that, let alone a drawing.
I promote it, and I still can't even do it. It's very tough. Very tough. You've been on this crazy journey, Carl. I haven't seen you for a decade, bro.
Been a while.
Now you're sitting at my house, and I'm sorry, we got a kitchen set up because our basement is getting refinished in November. But this is incredible because I'm looking at you, and I'm more so feeling your presence, and you are a completely different human being.
Yeah, it feels like there's been lives that have been lived since the last time I saw you.
You were a jock, Carl. You were a weightlifting, football-playing jock with your curly-ass hair. And now you are just like this in-the-moment, peaceful Zen master, it feels like.
I mean, it's a practice. I've definitely been spending my time trying to come back to myself, back to my body. But yeah, I was reflecting on that most of my time here was in living this life of playing sports and competing. And I feel like my life has moved so far from that. So it's interesting how a city or a state or the people that you're around, how that influences you so much, and how... Yeah, there's a lot of sports happening here and a lot of competition, and it's an interesting feeling coming back to it. But yeah, very much feeling like I'm a new person with a new body and a new sense on what it is to be alive.
What was your aha moment to send you into this trajectory?
It was... it was turmoil. It was like a turmoil of my body. I moved away about 10 years ago. I moved to Florida and was, again, another thing that's kind of far from what I'm doing. I was studying accounting and it was kind of taking this path of what other people were telling me to do and what I thought was expected of me as a man or as the person I had been shaped into, and I got my degree in accounting. I went and worked at a large accounting firm, and it took such a toll on my body. As we start to use our energies in ways that are like far from who and what we are, we can, I think our bodies start to, whether it's through sickness or pain or whatever the struggle is, our bodies start to tell us like, hey, something's got to change here. This isn't working. And it just had gotten to a point where my body, whether it was from old injuries of playing sports, using alcohol in a way that wasn't good for my brain or my body through my teen years and my early college years. It just, by the time I was 23, my body had said enough. And so through this time where I was having my body was going through a sickness, an illness, a disease, whatever. It's hard looking back on it now. It's hard looking back on it now to really be like, what was happening in my body? Because I've come back to such a place of health, of presence. But it got to a point where it was like something has to change, and the relationship that I was in ended. The career that I thought I was going to build was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And somebody pointed me in the direction of meditation, and that's really where it all started. It is like coming back to the moment, coming back to your body, coming back to the experience that you're having right now. And then that just continues to build. And the more you can keep coming back to your breath, the more you keep coming back to your body, is like this experience keeps on getting richer. So from that, it was meditation into yoga, into touch, into massage, and then most recently, I've gone to school for Rolfing, which is this more encompassing, holistic embodiment experience that, it really has this magical sense to it, but is so real in the way that it focuses on relating to what's happening in this moment, what's right in front of you, what you're experiencing.
Now that's the physical. Rolfing. Is that pushing lactic acid out of our muscles? Is through our lymph nodes? And we'll get into that, but I really want to talk about, because are you a certified yogi?
I've done a yoga teacher training, and I've taught a lot of my time in Colorado. I was teaching yoga classes, but I don't know if there's such a thing as a certified yogi. I think a yogi is. It's an identity, and there's so much to learn from yogi schools, and the people that do highly or strongly identify themselves as yogis. But I don't know. I've come to this point in my life where I don't want to tie down of like, no, this is what I am.
Yep.
This is who I am. I want so much room, so much space for this experience to continue to expand.
What is our identity in the first place?
It's, yeah, it's just language, or how we dress, or how we interact. But I think that there's so much more to our identity than what like one word or one idea could define. And we have this obsession for closure in our lives. We want to know what's going to happen or in our society, but sometimes just leaving a space for wonder, leaving space for whatever it is to expand.
You had some physical issues that came about. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Crohn's disease?
That's kind of, as you get into the medical system, trying to define things, again, it's this thing to put language on things. It's we want that, especially when we get into these states of turmoil or struggle. We want, it's satisfying to our brains to say like, this is what it was. My dad died when I was really young, and he struggled most of his life from Crohn's disease and the cancer and the struggles and everything that comes from it. So yeah, when I was starting to fall into this place of unhealth, of disease, my brain, especially working in accounting and really in that logical, very system-based thinking that puts you in, was like, I want a name for it. But then now looking back on it, I don't want to like define it, because I feel like I've done so much healing, have come into this place that's not what I wanted to identify as. I don't want to identify as somebody who is sick or is struggling. I'm trying to come into this place of health, of happiness that, I can share with other people, and I can allow it to, radiate into the spaces that I fill.
So no diagnoses. The diagnoses can F off because I'm not even going to bring it into my space.
It's an interpretation of what when something was happening in space and time. Now I look at it as like it was a struggle. It was a turmoil in my life, but it's something that has made me stronger. Like, sure, it broke me in that time, created wounds, created, cracks, but through, a stronger force, whatever you want to call that, it's sent me on this path, on this journey to heal those wounds, to fill those cracks. So for my current state of mind, for my current psyche, it doesn't help me to really, to hold on to that diagnosis of, something that did happen, but is not my current reality or the current way I feel about my body or myself.
Wouldn't that be living proof of the power of our mind, where there are people who get diagnosed with cancer, for instance, and then they tap into something greater than themselves, change their diet, completely recalibrate everything about their life, and then before they know it, they're shocking the doctors, and they don't even know how in 6 months cancer is gone. Just because even Tommy Chong did it, man. He just switched up his mind state, switched up his diet completely, did not go with what the doctors were recommending, and then before he knew it, he was clean.
Yeah.
It's incredible, the power of our mind.
Yeah, and our body.
Yeah.
It's they're one. You can separate them for conceptual reasons, but really they're so interconnected. Like, we don't have our mind without our body, and we don't have our body without our mind, or at least I haven't experienced that, and we need it both. Yeah, if we have that mental power of like, I'm going to create my own truth and my own reality, and we trust and we lean into the healing and the magical powers of our body, so much more can happen that can defy the logical minds of doctors or doubters or people that just don't think that that's the truth. But yeah, it's in a space like Rochester, it's so interesting because the Mayo Clinic is here, and health is packaged and sold in that way, and so much of this community is working there too. So it's just the system that keeps on feeding itself with its own ideas, and but sometimes when those ideas aren't working for you, you have to seek and create space for the possibility for other ideas to come in.
It's very tough because on the macro level, the system itself is not ready to have the conversation regarding the placebo. Dr. Joe Dispenza wrote an incredible book called You Are the Placebo, and it's all about how I think he had a broken spine. I'll have to go back to the book, and he meditated his way into being able to walk again. He was paralyzed.
Yeah.
And he just meditated his way to his feet from the hospital bed. It was incredible. But back to my point, with the system on the macro not being ready to have the conversation, on the micro, when you have the one-on-one conversations with, say, psychologists at Generos and their department, they're ready to have the conversation. It's just there's only so much they can do from within. And that's where the external, the free agents in this community have to do their due diligence as well to get the ball rolling so change can come afoot. Otherwise, their hands are tied. They're in a very tough position working at that level, trying to instill change in a community and a planet. It's very tough, man, because it's the scientific process where how do you even put the placebo in the grassroots level, how do you even put that into words when you can instill change? How do you even get that ball rolling when right now, because of mass media, the darkness is kind of won? It's got the stranglehold on mankind and humanity in the way of thought. So how do we instill that? And you kind of have to do it from left field, where you have to be the angels in the outfield. Literally, where you're just rolling in, steamrolling, having the tough conversations that no one wants to have, all the while forcing it down people's throat. You kind of have to just keep showing up to the dance, keep showing up to the dance. Make sure you bring your shoes, and when you start coming barefoot, make sure you keep boogieing. Who cares? Doesn't matter. And that's the tough place where we're at right now with the scientific process and the fact that they don't want to necessarily fully accept plant medicine. Mm-hmm. All the while plant medicine is probably, it's the coup d'etat in the game of healing. That is the answer. It's just there's so many private interests that have their toes dipped into the party, and they are not willing to relinquish that control and that dollar amount with something being replaced by something that can be grown from the ground.
Yeah. It's the forces are large that really drive the macro level, whether it's universal and the planets and the sun and the moon, or if it's governmental or the corporations and the dollars. So I think studying accounting and working at an accounting firm where you're seeing 9-10 figure numbers easily put on paper, it's like you really realize the force that's behind ideas and behind the continuing of people making money. That it's to push up against that is it's work. And you have to keep on showing up, being yourself, being free, dancing, showing people that like, hey, there's other options here rather than just these images that the media puts into our heads in so many different ways. And but that's where it comes back to experience. It comes back to coming back to your body, coming back to where it's happening. Because if you allow all these images to fill your head and these ideas to just come in willy-nilly without any discretion on your part, like other people are going to start shaping your reality so quickly. And so I feel like my role, where I see my part, it's just being myself and showing up on the individual level, because that macro level can feel so daunting, and the forces. We can't change how the moon and the planets are revolving around us, but we can change how we're interacting with the ground underneath our feet and the space around us. And I think that's a good place to start. And then who knows, just like healing from a disease, who knows what one person can do. I think
creatures are very, very malleable, and we don't want to admit that on the macro level. It's more or less just a swaying of human beings, but on the one-on-one level, this as a practitioner, creatures are so malleable. Just one solid session with Carl, you can reshape their universe. It's a paradigm shift with one hour session.
I mean, it's a start. I think it's a lifelong practice. It's not something that there's a magic pill. And I think that's where people's ideas have to change, is that you have to be the driver. You have to be the catalyst of change. It can't be just relying on pharmaceutical companies or doctors, or they can give you ideas, they can help you, but in the end it's you. So with the work that I've been doing, and then even more with Rolfing now, it's a conversation of how do I come back to my body? And typically Rolfing's done over a series of 10 sessions. And it's a really intelligent series because it doesn't just take 1 hour to make change, but over a series of 10 hours, like you can make a lot of change. You can create momentum, you can build upon it, and it can be, a really powerful experience, and through that, there can be health, there can be happiness, but like you can also come into yourself more fully of in your emotional and your energetic selves by just coming back into your body where it all happens. So I think that's really the wonderful thing about Rolfing is that it can start or it can deepen the conversation of like, how do I access my body? How do I come back to this vehicle that, whether I like it or not, is how I'm navigating this world, this life.
So how does Rolfing? We'll get into it since this is your creme of the creme now. You're the Rolfing Magnificento. How does Rolfing differentiate from deep tissue massage? And is it based on our meridians, kind of like acupuncture?
Well, how it differs from massage. So usually massage is the goals of a massage are either to relax you. So you think of like a typical spa massage. The goals there are to get your nervous system relaxed, and a wonderful, wonderful thing. There can be that sense of human contact, of human touch, which many people in our society don't get enough of. Or massage, deep tissue especially, can take on this idea of I'm trying to fix something. You hurt your shoulder, it's causing you pain, you got back pain. We're going to go to that issue. We're going to like circle around it, and that's where our focus is going to be. Rolfing takes this more holistic approach where instead of just approaching it from like, let's get you relaxed or let's heal an injury, it's this holistic approach of acknowledging your whole body. That when I touch a body, I'm not just touching flesh or muscle or tissue. I'm touching a living, breathing human being. And there's so much more richness in that there's an energetic quality, there's an emotional quality to this person. And Rolfing goes deeper and tries to evoke that deeper sense of being alive. Uses more language, more imagery to try to get somebody to put language to what they're feeling. Part of the problem with how we relate to our bodies is that the language we use isn't rich. We're good or bad, we're happy or sad, but the richer spectrum for most people, when they're asked to really describe how they feel or what's happening to them, isn't broad. So Rolfing brings you back into your body, but then also evokes this participation that keeps you accountable. That as a Rolfer, I'm just there to help you. I'm just there to show you that there's possibility. But that from beginning to end of that hour, like that's our time together. But after that hour ends, it rests on your shoulders to continue to practice being in your body, however that looks like, whether that's being more mindful or the way you move or the way you hold yourself.
To put it into perspective for listeners, how our spirit and our body can connect. Dude, you could have a girl who had daddy issues growing up, traumatic experience, and that can come through in like her sciatic. That can come through in her plantar fascia. It is so weird how our physical and our spiritual connect on a deeper plane that we don't even realize, and it gets so deeply rooted in ourselves, and it comes through in back pain. It comes through in foot pain, other bodily pains. I remember being down in Peru my second year, and I had always had this level of worry, because my dad died from cancer as well, and it was based on my lungs, but it wasn't, I never really smoked cigarettes or anything like that, but it was all deeply rooted in my left lung, just west of my heart. And then in this ceremony, I feel this thing coming up, and you purge a lot while you're drinking ayahuasca, but this is a different kind of purge. This is a purge where something, not a fluid, but something physical was coming out of me. And it was this black, almost like a dollar piece, metal dollar piece that came out, and I puked it out. And you just heard the clunk on the bottom of the bucket, and you're tripping, but this is actually happening too. Like, this literally happened. If I would have had my camera phone, I would have taken a picture of it, because I pull it out of the bucket, and it was a black piece, hard as a rock, just in the bottom of the bucket. And my psyche, or the other side or something, was telling me, yeah, that's your worry right there. Quit worrying, man. You're bringing that into the physical. Knock it off. And this literally happened. And it's a story I'll always keep with me, because it shows the power of our mind, the power of unhealthy thought patterns.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's something that your body was holding on to for who knows how long. And, it takes awareness to really feel and think about how that plays out. But these physical or emotional things that happen to us, or energetic things that happen to us throughout our life, if we're not there to be present, or we don't have the proper tools to process them, they can live on into the future and then continue to repeat themselves. So you find patterns, these ways that you act out in life that you're like, I don't like that part of me, but it's usually tied to something that happened at a different time in this life, or if you believe in past life, something that happened in your before this body came onto this earth, or even things that are ancestral, these ideas that just get passed on through generations and generations. They can be stuck in our energy fields. They can be stuck in our bodies, and we have to move past them. But yeah.
As you brought that up, I was Googling genetic memory, and it's something that's getting talked about quite a bit lately, where past trauma from our ancestors can carry on genetically, and it brings on heart disease, things like that. In psychology, genetic memory is a memory present at birth that exists in the absence of sensory experience and is incorporated into the genome, our DNA, over long spans of time. That's incredible. And I compared it one time. My friends were debating about the Holocaust, and it was all about, listen, Mr. White Man, you cannot tell these Jewish people whose ancestors went through extremely traumatic circumstances, you cannot tell them to not feel it in 2018. It is not your due diligence because of genetic memory. So same thing with black people whose ancestors were on slave ships. Who's to say that the man with the hammer doesn't scare the shit out of them, even if they didn't grow up in times of slavery?
For sure. Or the Native Americans, like
Absolutely.
any population that, unfortunately, as a white person, our ancestors, created these environments for these groups of people. And, and it lives on. And I feel like a lot of really these last 2 years, I've done so much diving into what is the possibility of going into these things that happened either to me or to in time and space that I feel like are affecting me now. And
have you done any past life regression?
Not in the typical sense of like working with a psychologist that does it, but I've done rebirthing, or like intentional breathing, or pull breathing, where I've done it like one-on-one with a practitioner, but then also with a group. So you pretty much hyperventilate yourself into a state, and with that, it took me back to this time where it was unenglishable. It was primates before we had tied down language, but there was emotion behind it. There were feeling. There was a sense of loss, and this sense of grief that just goes back, I think, to the beginning of consciousness, of when you realize what's in front of you, and that there's this bigger potential to expand. You start feeling more, and then through other experiences, it's been like, whoa, how old am I? Go back to the identity thing. You can identify with your body, but then you come to your spiritual self, into that bigger part of you, and it's like, how old is that? So it's like, where has this spirit been in space and time through the cosmos?
It's trippy, ain't it?
It is, yeah. This summer, I went to the Black Hills for the first time.
God's country.
Yeah, well, I think I went there as a young child, but it's just not the same. It's like, coming into it. But like, some of the rocks there have been dated like 2.5 billion years. And my brother and I were camping there, and I just kept on telling him, like, where are we? Like, because it just felt like there was like a piece of me in this land that it's just like, that just made me feel so ancient, so old. It's just...
That brings on the disconnect, and that is our reality, that they say that our body regenerates or regrows itself every 6 months or whatever, each piece of our physical being. But when you talk about our genetic makeup is compiled from stardust, and we know how, we couldn't even fathom / know how old stars are. The trillions of years. Like, they want to put a date on our universe. I'm not buying it, because there might have been a extra dimensional universe prior to that one, and then prior to that one, and prior to that one. Putting the word infinity onto it doesn't even do it justice. So when we talk about just being on this big floating rock in a black ethereal force, the stones in the Black Hills are us.
Yeah.
They might have a different form of consciousness. Same thing with like dolphins and their language, and orcas and their language. I think they're more spiritual than us, because let's be honest, man, they're just living in this zenful state all the time.
Yeah, embodying beauty and gracefulness, and
not to mention their language. We can figure out an ape's language because we are apes.
Yeah.
Oh boy. We could not even come close. I don't think we'll ever be able to completely figure out in the wild what orcas are saying.
Yeah,
completely with their pitches. No way.
The chemical transmissions that are happening. We can't even, as humans, as our culture, we're struggling with our own chemistry and coming into it. So yeah, to come into the chemistry that is the language of other forms of life, whether it's a rock or a flower, it's just it's something that can just be experienced. And it's like, I don't think we have words. English, a lot of things don't translate well into English anyways. So.
Not at all. And I think to completely come full circle as a physical / spiritual being on this planet, we're going to have to go wordless and go straight telepathic, so we can release our complete essence of ourself. I guess if you want to go the cornball route, in order to release that, because right now, man, we're still disrespecting elephants, and elephants put our memory to shame. Who's to say they don't feel a little deeper than us? When these hunters roll in and they steal a baby elephant for a circus or something like that in the 1800s, who's to say that mama, her pain hasn't been passed on? You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And I think we're the likes of you, because I truly believe you're further along than 99% of America when it comes to the deep connection with yourself and a spiritual higher power. That's the Carl Staubs of the world are the guides. And people talk about, say, if we're going to get political, they talk about how bad Donald Trump is. But the thing is you don't have to vote for the guy to think that he's actually a good thing for us in regards to people are being forced to look in the mirror and say that is possible. A human being like that has run rampant in the game of business in this capitalistic nation we live in.
Yeah.
So
It's a good wake-up call.
it's a great wake-up call. We don't want to relive this, so we need to take it for what it is, go deeper within ourselves, and not make the same mistake so we don't come out the other end with insanity.
For sure. It's things can continue to repeat themselves until we come back into ourselves, back into our bodies, come to that place where we can make conscious choices to be like, yeah, there's these larger forces that, you or I can't just say we don't want Donald Trump to be president. It's going to happen. But yeah, we can start making decisions in ourselves that move the world that we want to live in the direction that we want to go. And and just use his face as a reminder to wake the fuck up, and that consciousness is a must. I mean,
because he would be an example of anti-consciousness, where it is just all egoic, all surfaced, all A or B. There is no wider variation of this dimensional realm we live in,
Yeah. Right when he got
sociopathic, narcissistic,
right when he got elected president, there was this meme that went around where it was him with a beard, and it was like what happened after he took acid, and then I forget what the line in the background was, but it was him on a teleprompter where he like decided to choose love or to choose happiness. But yeah, you're looking at a person that, whether it's shaped by his experience through his life, or just the situations that he's been put in. But yeah, it's an ego that has run rampant, and it's pretty easy to throw hateful words around and to get angry and have even bodily reactions to his energy or his presence. But yeah, I think reframing it as a wake-up call of like, well, fuck, maybe if I am not conscious for the next 40 years, I'm going to wake up and be this 70-year-old man that's so out of touch with himself. And but then you look at the power of money, and then you put money behind somebody that's so out of touch with their body and with their spirit, and you see what happens. So it can be this wake-up call that it's never too late to start practicing consciousness, because it's a practice. Like, it's not a switch that you flip on and then oh shit, I'm 100% conscious all the time, I'm dropped into each and every moment. No, it's a practice of drifting off and being like, oh, where did I go, and coming back, feeling back into the body, feeling the ground underneath you, feeling the air in your lungs, and coming back. But yeah, it's just an interesting situation that, on the individual level, sitting here chatting with you, it's just like, two human beings alive. But as you stretch out into the macro level and you look at our country, and especially if you look at it from the lens of media, it's just like, what the fuck? But
it's a constant state of turmoil, and they get paid off of turmoil. And bringing it back to ourselves, kind of what you were talking about this, what is consciousness? this day in, day out reconciliation with our higher selves. And when you talk about it being a practice, not just a quick fix pill, it's all about the day in, day out calling ourselves, I guess this physical being, our egoic being, out on its bullshit. Round the clock, man. It is work.
Yeah.
And the people like Donald Trump he's never taken a psychedelic. He has never smoked marijuana. He doesn't drink, which is fine. But the thing is, bro, when you do partake in those kind of activities, you're forced to look within. Whether that be, you might be the drunk guy who drinks too much on the corner of the bar, or he hates himself and he's realizing that deep in the sauce, man, I've fucked up. I hate myself, as opposed to being the ignorant type who has never gone that route, which is fine, but there's a way to do it. The people that I envy in this third dimension are the people who don't use any substances and have found it all naturally, and they're living in fucking India, teaching yoga, eating off the land. You know what I'm saying? That type of Hinduistic lifestyle, where they're just going hard in the paint when it comes to all natural.
I don't know. I still think it takes a catalyst. Maybe it's not something of just like taking a psychedelic and then having experience. Like, yeah, if somebody who's an alcoholic and has put themselves in a deep hole through drinking, yeah, they take a psychedelic and there's no running from like, oh shit, this is the situation that I've created. And it's not like the psychedelic's gonna heal you from, that addictive quality of, whatever the substance is, but it's going to open your eyes and it's going to make you see the people that you've hurt, and it's going to make you change of like, oh shit, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to, start making these more conscious decisions. But even people that, whether it happens on a natch, I think there's a catalyst, whether it's an experience, like, many people say that traveling is a psychedelic in itself. It dissolves boundaries and barriers where all of a sudden people are speaking in different languages. People are maybe acting in a way that's not what you are used to. So you have to adapt to what you're around. So I think there can be other situations that are psychedelic, but are not, classified and made illegal by our government. That there are ways to, evoke these states that then push us or pull us in a direction of like, oh, I want to move towards consciousness because it makes me feel better as a human and as as a being.
In a perfect world, we don't even need to tap into psychedelia because holotropic breath work, cold shock therapy, stuff like that can get us there. We have gone so far off the beaten path where I think it is, because let's be honest, man, a deep psychedelic journey is a traumatic event. And it's the kind of event why the founders of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, they used it as that catapulting event for these men and women who have been so deep down the honey hole on the sauce where that's all they could do. But the all natch route is something that should never be discounted either. And I think there are yogis across this planet who are tapping into it every single morning during their session.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the practice part of it. Mm-hmm. The all natural part, it's like we can't be in this psychedelic state. Like you can't be on ayahuasca, LSD, mushrooms all of the time. You want to have this experience that, is a little bit big and traumatic and shakes you all the way to your core that then you can integrate back into your life. But how do you integrate it back into your life? With practices, whether that's meditation, movement, dance, singing. There's so many ways to access yourself. But in our society, we get pulled into other things, whether it's TV or bullshit or alcohol, these things that take us out of ourselves, take us away from that stronger force that's going to allow us to make conscious decisions.
The integration is key, and you brought it up with your Rolfing practice. If it takes 10 sessions, after each session, there's a lot of integration that comes into play throughout the process if you really want to get the most out of it. That's the same thing with ayahuasca, man. Even before, there's pre-degradation. I don't even know what the word would be. Not integration, but you got to do it beforehand, where it's like, if you're going to really do it, you got to change up your diet. You got to put yourself on a jungle diet prior to even going down there. You need to stop smoking marijuana. You need to get off your supplements 2 weeks out. Things like that, man. You can't eat, when you come home, you can't eat pork for a month. Because they call it the spirit killer, because it's kind of like cannibalizing ourselves, because the tissue is so similar to our human being tissue that, and it's why they replace heart valves with pig hearts, stuff like that, because the tissue is so similar. If you come home after just drinking a potent psychedelic that's bringing you into the spirit realm, and then you're going to come home and eat bacon, the spirit killer, no, bro, it's not a good move. You know, you can't eat meat for regular meat, chicken and red meat for 3 days. No sex for 48 hours, because that is a spiritual contact with another being, unless you're using dolls or animals. But you get my drift. Like, there is something deeper working. We might work on each other in the physical realm, but there is something kind of like that knot in the lower back because you were beat as a child or something. There's something deeper working, and I think the spirit physical workers like you, you're going to be our savior.
Well, thank you,
Carl.
I mean, I hope. I think I got into the work, I mean, to heal myself first, but then you see the potency, and it's like, I want to share this, and I think it's the individual that, you know, creates community and really taps into where they are in space and time that's going to change things. It's not this just big overarching message that all of a sudden, like, oh, okay, like we all got it. Like, no, it's individuals doing their own part, you know, speaking their truth with their voice, you know, dancing their dance, like really expressing themselves through it all.
Let's get into story time. Has there ever been, whether this is in ceremony, I'm sure you've been in multiple different forms of ceremony, has there ever been just something incredible that happened that brought you back to ground zero? Like, wow, it could have been at a rave. It could have been in a sweat lodge. Have you ever done a sweat lodge?
Not like a ceremonial sweat lodge. I've used sauna to like test my body, but not ceremonial sweat lodge.
We got to get you dialed in. We'll bring you out to Utah, hook you up with the Blue Morpho folk. We'll get them to poke some holes in you, burn some holes in you, and put some frog venom in there.
So I've done that. I think that was probably, of all the things that I've done, that it was just like, holy shit. 'Cause it is, I mean, it's legal. That's the first thing. It's and it's not psychedelic. It's an experience. It rattles you. It shakes you. And through that, there's just like that bigger, like, oh my God, I'm fucking alive. And I have this body and I have this spirit.
What do you mean it's not psychedelic?
So it's an ordeal poison. You're being poisoned by frog venom. So you get holes, you get little burn wounds from a little stick, or they can use incense. And then in that wound, they mix your spit and the venom, the dried up venom from this Amazonian tree frog, the bicolor Medusa tree frog. And they put that into the wound, and you go through this experience where your heart starts to beat a little bit faster and faster and faster. And you're like, oh shit, like that's my heart. Like, sure, you can tap into the rhythm of your heart, but when it's beating out of your chest, there's no mistaking where your heart is and like what it's doing to your whole body. And then your body, you start sweating. It's a purge. So one of the ways we purge is through our pores. So it's like you're peeing out of your pores pretty much. I've never sweat so fast, so quickly. But then there's this presence of a frog. Like you just put a frog inside of yourself in this experience, and little froggy is zipping through your body, cleaning shit up, moving shit around, stirring shit up. And through that, it's just like, whoa, here's my body. It's going through this ordeal. But the mind is pretty much there. I mean, the mind's fascinated by what's happening, because it's just like, I'm being poisoned, I'm being poisoned, I'm being poisoned, like shit. But then the purge comes on, and there's this urge to vomit that can't be stopped. I mean, I guess I've seen people hold that back, or there was a resistance within themselves that they don't purge. But for me, it was a tidal wave. Those walls broke, and kind of like what you said with that deeper, with your ayahuasca, that deeper thing coming out of you. Like there are roars where it's vomiting, but it's and it's like this primitive, primeval part of you that it's just like that's so much older than this body. And it's a liver purge, or it goes through your liver. So this froggy runs all through your body, makes its way to the liver. The liver sends out its bile, and from there, that's what you either vomit up or makes its way into your shit, and you shit it out. So you're having this purge, but as soon as the venom is wiped off your leg or your arm or wherever it was, wherever the input was, you're back. And 20 minutes, 30 minutes after the whole experience, like you're fully functional, but cleaner than ever. So luckily, Colorado is a wonderful place of acceptance of, possibility and of medicines. And I was able to do this several times. And, the first time is just like this kind of shock thing of like, oh my God, like this exists. This is a possibility. But then as you can lean into it more, you can access deeper parts of you, where I think it was the third time that I did it. It felt like I threw up college, like emotionally, physically, energetically, all the abuse that I put onto my body. I was able to purge that up. That left me, and it wasn't a part of me afterwards. And so to tap into, this isn't a plant. This is an animal that, in the Amazon, they have this really symbiotic relationship with. And they say that this has been happening for like 3,000 years, that people in the Amazon have been accessing this frog to purge themselves. And there's so many qualities that help give them resistance to disease and bring immunity to their systems, that like they use it as like a medicine, as a tool. And through that, that just opened up so many doors of like what is possible in my body and space, like, and not shunning, not dismissing what could be a resource. But I would say that the frog medicine has been some of the biggest experiences. But how do you integrate that? How do you come back from that? Something that's so quick, something that can be there and gone, and all you're left with is like, oh, that happened to me. Like, how do you integrate that into your life? But I think that's the key with everything, whether it's, schooling, how do we put this new knowledge into play into our world? This relationship with our body, how do we put that into play? But then also our spirit, our consciousness, our ability to, have compassion for other human beings, and this ability to be present and aware with human beings. How do we feel that in a moment through an experience, but then how do we continue to share that with people that, maybe aren't always receptive of people being happy and joyous and really expressing themselves in a way that maybe makes them question, like, oh, what am I doing?
I think as we instill or become confident beings, we're able to instill it in others through, so often it comes from brands. So we saw it with Nike, just do it. Just get your poop in a group and just get going. And now, as we all become our own business owners, LLC holders, stuff like that, where we get these certifications and, well, we got to make money come out of thin air. It's our time to shine. We don't want to be working in a cubicle for this corporation as an accountant or whatever that may be. So as we start branding ourselves, we bring with it a sense of purpose, a little bit of personality, but more so, it's a different set of principles that people can tie themselves to. So when people get to hear Carl Staub and they hear that he's a Rolfer now and he can guide you in the right direction with what he does, people tie on to that. It's beyond Carl. It's beyond this name, this governmental name. It's they're tying on to those principles. And I think that's where your message is really going to shine, because you're going to create disciples out of this. People who are vibing at the same level and they are ready to hit the ground running, because it's like throwing shit at a wall. Only 10% of it's going to stick. But the ones it does stick with, they are able to pass on the message. That's where Gandhi's come from. That's where Jesus came from, and why Buddha technically doesn't have a face. It's just a way of life.
Yeah.
That they put a body onto. You know what I'm saying? And due to these principles.
Yeah.
And it's something.
These ideas of something bigger.
As the yoga mat becomes our church, I really think with that yoga mat comes a way of life. And when it's done correctly, and implementation is key. And I really think you're the type. You're going to do it. I'm really happy to have you here, man. I haven't seen you in over a decade. You missed out on our 10-year reunion. That was a wild time. Holy moly.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting to see so many people that it's just like you have to almost just be like, you're a new person here. I'm a new person. You're a new person. Like, let's...
It's what it was, man. It was a lot
on that level.
A lot of people who are, because so many people that we exist with on a daily basis, 99% of people, they are stuck and they might not even admit it yet. They might not even be aware of it yet, but it comes out in our personality where we feel like we have something to prove. We're keeping up with the Joneses, or we hold things in and we hold ourselves back. And you see a lot of that when you see people after a 10-year mark, and there's this not animosity, not hostility, but uneasiness and lack of acceptance, where it's like, hey man, this is all love here. And the reason I brought up ceremony, had you partaken in any, because you really feel that within those walls, is there's a deeply rooted connection between all of us that and you get it through just taking LSD with 5 friends, where, oh my God, our brains are fucking connected and we're not even talking. We're telepathically speaking with one another through emotion.
Yeah.
And when you go to things like 10-year reunions, or you go to a concert where there's a lot of liquor being served at a Kid Rock concert and ain't nobody taking no Molly there, and there's just this ups and downs instead of just a steady plane of we're all vibing. Yeah. You felt those
for sure.
Even in a solid, committed yoga studio, where, dude, you guys are just on the same wavelength every single morning.
Yeah, I mean, I've I'm so lucky to have led groups of, 40, 50, 60 students through movement. And you get that many people tapping into their breaths and really feeding off of each other's energy. And something bigger can happen. It's coming, but again, it's coming back to the body. How can we let our body be our church? Because that's really where the experience happens, and when we realize that, we can recreate ceremony type feelings within ourselves, and again radiate that out, and let our communities become stronger because of what we're able to put out there.
Do you want to help me turn America into the Avatar movie?
I mean, aren't we already there?
We're going, baby. Let's do it.
I mean,
before they came in and took down the tree. Where everyone's sitting around the tree in their lotus position, bobbing back and forth, and they're all tapped in through the breath.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fucking beautiful to really have that be what our communities are gathering around, and letting our community practices being ones of love and compassion, but then also of like, how can we have like the group body become healthier and stronger. So yeah, I mean, I think even though we've been in different places, the cause, it looks different from what I'm doing and from what you're doing, but I think we already have that image in our head of okay, there's something bigger that maybe it's only a dream, but let's fucking dream that's possible, and that we can tap back into nature, and we can allow nature to feed our bodies, feed our souls, our minds, at that deeper level.
Carl, I don't know what the feng shui of the mountains did to you, but oh boy, they got you radiating, dog.
And the mountains are good. I mean, nature is so powerful. I think even just like being back in Minnesota for the short time that I've been back, it's like the weather's been so gray and cloudy, and it's just like these bigger forces that
11 hours of sunshine through 10 days of October. 11 hours.
Yeah, so it's these bigger forces, and in Colorado, the sun shines so much. Like, it's pretty gray there right now, but pretty much all year round, like, you're gonna get the sun several days a week.
That's why Golden Colorado is called Golden Colorado, because something about how many hours a day they get sun and how often they get sun throughout the year is just incredible.
Yeah, so it's a really magical place. So I mean, even if you've never been there, anybody who's listening to this, like, go visit. I mean, it's
I'm inhaling some Colorado right now.
Yeah, I mean, it had like the best cannabis in the world, Colorado. The mountains, like the trees in the mountains, the ponderosa pines. Oh my Lord, like some of the best smelling trees that you can find. So and just like the Black Hills, so some of the rocks in the Rocky Mountains are I don't think they're quite 1 billion years old, but we're talking millions of years. So there's this deeper power. It's like
the mountains got pushed up like Donald Trump pushes out a fart.
Yeah, I mean, we look for these teachers in the world, and we want to seek other human beings, but sometimes we need to humble ourselves to a plant, to an animal, to a fucking mountain, to an ocean. Like, take whatever your pick is, whatever you love about nature, like, really humble yourself to it, and you will learn more than you can explain.
Nature does not forgive, and that is the ultimate humility right there. Go kayaking in the rapids and then fall out of that kayak. Tell me how much nature gives a shit about you. That's a traumatic event right there, which will calibrate your spirit with the quickness. Yeah. I'm telling you. Sprain your ankle on a hike in the mountains and see how much nature loves you.
Right? Limping your way back. It's it's there's just so many lessons to be learned. So if somebody feels out there feels like they need a change of scenery, and Colorado is an option, take that leap. Like the universe,
It's a 15-hour drive from here, buck up, give or take, right?
Yeah.
But you can drive through the Black Hills.
Yeah,
If you
you
go
can.
the South Dakota route, oh my gosh, it is God's country. I can't stress it enough. I will second that fact. It is incredible.
Yeah, and then just great people there. I feel like I was able to come more fully into what I wanted, what I want to be as a human. Coming back to how you started, there was a time where I was a jock and an athlete. I lifted weights. I played football, but I think that was so much in response to like what other people wanted, and these other messages, and the strive to fit in, or the strive to like find a place. And when that's happening all around you, you kind of have to fit into that, or be on the outside. And Colorado really allowed, my inner freak, my inner geek, my inner nerd. There's like all these inner parts of me that maybe were repressed or just didn't get exercised enough. Colorado gave me so much space and freedom to be like, oh, like this is what I want to do. And like there's a wonderful ecstatic dance community where on Thursday nights in Denver, over 100 people are showing up and dancing however the fuck they want. And the weirdos come out, but it's so beautiful because in people being themselves, in people acting in ways that you don't see normally, it gives you ideas of like, oh, like they're being free, like why can't I be free? And like and testing like the level of how much you can just come into yourself, into your body.
Yeah, dude. Who cares if the room smells like the armpit of Satan after everyone leaves? Doesn't matter.
No, it was a powerful experience. And, so I feel like that's another way we can integrate, dancing is a wonderful, like if you're dancing not on alcohol, the experience in your body can be so pleasurable. I think it can be easier to maybe dance if you've had a little influence, but I think
that's another egoic hurdle right there, though. People who are unable to be within themselves externally in a public place.
Yeah.
All your I give a fucks need to be thrown out the window, and it starts with alcohol, that liquid courage that they say you should sip before you dance, before you go converse at a company meet and greet. No, mother trucker, you're getting over a hurdle just by doing it sober. And then that's a spiritual gain right there. You keep showing up every single Thursday night. We don't need drugs.
No.
We don't need liquor. We're just rocking. I'll never forget my first time being downtown Denver. We went to this bar that was, ironically enough, closing down the next day. And there was this bartender from Boston. She was in the Navy. Her name was Emily. She had long hair, and it wasn't a wig, bro. She had long hair and a ponytail. She was our waitress when we went. We had just gotten, we were staying in the Hilton downtown, walked down to this bar to get a bite to eat. She invited us back later that night because they were having one of her favorite bands there, and they were closing down shop after that night. So we're like, okay, we got nothing to do. We'll go meet up with our friends and bring them back here. We did. Emily was there. She was off the clock. She was hammered. Shaved her fucking head. She didn't have a ponytail anymore.
Oh, damn.
She had a shaved head, and she's got a deep Boston accent, and she gives zero fucks, and she was in the Navy, got her Navy tattoo on her left arm. She shaved her head in the matter of the 2.5 hours we were gone. People get down. They're freaks in Denver, dog. And they're cool freaks. Like, they're down-to-earth freaks. Like, you're going to end up Facebook friends by the end of the night type freaks.
Yeah, there's a lot of real people there. I think, people are doing sometimes crazy shit, shaving their head, dyeing their hair, tattooing their bodies in ways to get attention. But I think even in that, there's a realness in that of, like, sure, I'm going to do something different with my body or with my identity or with my presentation, but I'm doing it because like I consciously want to do it, not just grabs for attention. So yeah, it's a powerful place. I'm happy that I had my experience of being there for the last like 4.5 years.
Where can people find you, Carl?
Where can people find me? Well, I'm in Minnesota through the 26th, and then I'm making another leap. Um, the look in your eyes just got so much brighter. I'm going to go spend the winter in Guatemala. So I'm leaving on the 26th to make my way to Guatemala by the end of the month. There's this lake, Lake Adelon. It's a lake up in a volcanic basin. I think it's 3 volcanoes form this basin that this lake is, and a bunch of little most of them hippie towns along the lake that brings all kinds of people from all over the world. So I'm headed to this town called San Marcos, and I think it's like 2,000, 3,000 people are there. There's no cars, just a yogic, spiritual, free community that is are doing different things. So I have ideas of what it's going to be, but I've never been there. But I'm just kind of taking this leap, this experience that I've had over the last couple years, this journey that I've been on. It's almost felt like I'm being pulled towards something, or something's calling me towards. I'm not even sure completely what it is, or who they or what they are.
Are you able to bring Sir Winston?
Sir Howard.
Sir Howard.
No, Howard's staying here. He's got my sister to take care of.
That's
him.
Carl's dog.
Yeah, my little lassie dog. No, he's not coming with. It's just another journey of myself. My dog's taught me so much. I'm so grateful for him. But luckily, I have a sister who wants to have a dog. So we have this nice relationship of being able to share and practice non-attachment. So yeah, on the 26th, I'm heading out of Minnesota for at least the winter. There's a chance. I've been really enjoying my time back, so I think there's a chance I come back in the spring, in the summer.
We can set you up, bro.
Yeah.
We'll set you up. We'll get your ball rolling here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Minneapolis would be my home, but yeah, I'm headed to Guatemala for at least the next 4 months to continue to heal myself, to find myself, so that I can take this even further into the world, into whatever's next. It's kind of this leap and just like this trust that. That the universe is there to provide, and that to face your fears, you have to face them head on, and sometimes you have to jump in and realize that.
Spread your wings, you fucking Red Bull rocket man.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Sometimes you just have to take that leap to realize that you can fly, and that your capabilities are so much more than what the institutions tell us they are.
We've all got a parachute. And everyone needs to realize they have it strapped to their back, whether they've taken a leap or not. You never know when it's going to open. Trust fund babies, sometimes their parachute opens earlier, but they're stuck in the clouds for a long time before they hit the ground. Before they come down and land on those 2 feet. Some of the lucky ones who have realized earlier rather than later, man, I lose nothing when I just take a leap. I gain everything. Whether that's experience, whether that's monetary gains, whether that's connections, no matter what, man, you gain so much by taking leaps like this. And it is one of the most heroic type of journeys you can take, because you're the hero of your own life. I've got this hammer sitting right next to you. It's actually a symbol for Generation Hero, helping everyone reach out. And it's something where people, whether we can shake their ears or their heads or not and get it into them, you can't do it that way nowadays. You can't roll into a community and put your boot on their throat and tell them they're going to live like this. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's all about the personal journey and being the hero of your own movie. And that's where Carl has been, where you just left this identity, this shell of yourself in the past back in college, and you came and you allowed frogs to help you purge it out. And now what's next, baby boy? Let's go. Carl, I'm excited for your future. You got a bright future. We're going to help you out in any way we can. Let's go, Rolf.
Thank you.